Hey friends, this is Ian Khan, the Futurist here at HIMSS 25 in Las Vegas. I have with me Abhinav Shashank from Innovaccer, and we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about transforming the future and where things are going in the next few years. Welcome to the Futurist. How is, tell us about yourself first.
Thank you so much for having us firstly. So my name is Abhinav. I started the company 10 years ago. A large part of our thesis of building out the business was that a lot of us have been typing away into systems like forever. Like the last 25, 30 years, most of our jobs have basically one primary component, which is like enter data into systems. But if you really look at it, not a lot of it has been used to improve what we do on a day-to-day basis in any meaningful sort of really way. And that was like strange to us, that we are basically spending so much time and effort and energy into storing things into a system of record, but when it comes to business performance or when it comes to improving any part of like the outcomes that we are generating as businesses, there is very minimal usage of that per se. So as 24-year-olds, when we started off the business, we thought that is a problem worth like solving, and we had basically started to work on advanced cloud technologies. How do you get data together? How do you basically build system of intelligences? So we basically started building out what would be like a horizontal system of intelligence in general. It was actually not very healthcare focused. We served like Fortune 500 companies as a starting point. And as we sort of really did that, we met our first healthcare customer 7 years ago at HIMSS actually. And so that was like a very meaningful encounter where when we started looking at the technology that we are using in healthcare, it is probably like 10 years behind where technology is in general. Everyone from like a Uber driver to like someone who's delivering like mail to you, to people who are doing like their day-to-day jobs as like insurance like people or banking people. Everyone is basically using such modern technology like on their base. While the most important part of our lives, which is healthcare, we were using technology that doesn't seem like too sophisticated and future ready per se. And so that is where we sort of really decided that we are going to go shut down 90% of our business, which was non-healthcare, and focus on healthcare, on building what could basically be the system of intelligence for healthcare. And the last 7 years we've been focused on building that, and we now have like I think close to 60 million lives on top of our like platform. We serve like 100 plus health systems across the country, helping them basically improve healthcare outcomes, both on affordability as well as like I think quality of care.
Of course. You know, one of the big things I think that has happened in the last decade is this emergence of data, right? I would say in the early days of the last decade, and you probably remember, you know, there was this whole impetus on cloud. Now, cloud is new, everything is cloud, and there was a crazy amount of craze going on the cloud. Then it was around big data. Then it was around analytics. So these waves have come and gone in many different ways. Of course, they're still here. We still love the cloud. But we've moved on from that conversation to now it's AI, now it's generative AI, now it's the future. What are you seeing with your work with the industry in general, whether it's healthcare or not? Let's talk healthcare. What are you seeing is a critical growth or development that's taking place? Is it everybody's liking data now, or everybody wants to do efficiency, or what are you seeing from inside the industry?
I don't think these things are like unrelated, each of these waves. I think it is a compounding of each wave that caused the next wave to a certain extent. The internet came, like everyone for the first time effectively started to get the ability to create content at large. That content basically started to grow, and therefore like you needed a place to store all of this and do it like in a scalable way, which basically led to cloud really starting to come through. Once the cloud was there, it accelerated like a bunch of like abilities for you to develop applications and not have to set up like server farms to basically do that. So there was like I think an explosion of like applications that really started getting built up, and that basically led to like the mobility and wave that really came up. Once we've sort of really got into that, we've now basically started realizing that as the amount of data that was basically being produced like 20 years ago versus now is probably like 6 orders of magnitude, 8 orders of magnitude larger than what we were doing 8 years ago. So therefore, like I think we needed like I think a way to process that, and therefore the big data wave started to come in. Once we ran basic analytics on top of it, we now basically thought that can it also learn on its own and really help us do our jobs like more like better, and which is what like you're seeing like I think in the OpenAI led I think like generative AI wave to a certain extent, and I think it's going to keep evolving like these, but one thing is leading to the other in some way rather than these sort of really being looked at as separate waves. This is effectively like one trend towards a connected super intelligence that we are basically going through basically like stages of development.
Let's talk about the future. What do you see happen in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your forecast, or what's your estimation on where things will go, or what should happen if you had a magic wand?
Our general view is that productivity is basically going to boom quite dramatically. Like over a 3, 5, 7 year period, we are probably going to see like I think a productivity boom like in a crazy way. Like if a content writer was basically able to write one blog in a week, like they're able to do like I think 3 a day today, right? Because a lot of that, like I think you're able to spar with like I think OpenAI or ChatGPT and a bunch of these things, and therefore the pace at which you are able to do these things is like increasing quite dramatically. But that's not just happening in content, that's happening in like how people write code, that's happening in how people are thinking about like video, how people are thinking about any form of thing per se. So therefore, the knowledge work productivity is going to basically go through the roof over the next few years. And if that sort of really happens, we are probably going to see the economies like grow quite rapidly, right? Because in some way, like the economy is or the store of productivity. And if productivity basically increases 10x, there is probably like an effect of that like on the entire GDP and productivity that we are going to sort of really see. And we're hoping as that sort of really happens, it spreads across various industries rather than basically being consolidated into a few industries where maybe like the last generation of technology, the big like Mega 7 basically became Mega 7 and like I think the rest of the market did not see that prevalence. But I think generative AI to a certain extent actually brings that equality structure that you can basically be in any industry and now basically build like fairly large like businesses and drive like I think massive productivity in those businesses. So I think like there is going to be a little bit of that happens over the next few years, and like we for one are very, very excited about that for sure.
Amazing. Well, Abhinav, thank you for joining us here on this series here at HIMSS 25. There's so much happening, and I'm sure you'll meet a lot of incredible people and, build those connections. And we're looking forward to seeing your growth and tracking it. But thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Perfect.